Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Tips. I'm your host, Marin Smith, content manager here at Grow Schools. And as usual, we're here Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for 10 minutes discussing the biggest challenges facing school leaders. And this week, we're welcoming back Michael Soh. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being here.
Hi, happy to be here.
For a follow-up discussion on strategic facility planning for schools. And Michael, I know last time you joined us, we spoke about how many schools face tough choices about their physical space, whether they're dealing with immediate sort of capacity issues or working within tight budgets, trying to plan for future growth without overextending financially. And so you gave lots of great tips about understanding how to approach those decisions strategically in a way that can actually save schools a lot of money and position them, for long-term success. So I have some follow-up questions for you today. The first one is, what facility planning mistakes do you see schools make that end up costing them significantly more money down the road?
Yeah, happy to dive into that. So when you're planning a new facility, whether it's a renovation or new build, the most costliest mistake is making last minute changes during construction. I've been through this a few times here at Grow Schools as well as at prior companies. And really it comes down to 2D plans are really difficult to understand. When you get a set of drawings, whether if it's printed out or a PDF sent to you from the architect, it's really hard to conceptualize, the spacing, the sizing, and how those drawings actually come together when it's actually built or renovated. So a best practice that I always have and what I require for my projects is a 3D rendering as well as a 3D walkthrough to give you the best visualization of the space. And that really makes it so that you can go on the computer as well as there's also VR capability where you can actually see through a rendered option of what your space is going to look like. And it does a really great job of being able to physically see the spacing and try to be able to catch things that you may not be able to pick up just from a regular traditional 2D drawing set. So that is one of the most costly mistakes is, let's just say, for example, design a project, everything looks good. When it's under construction, you're walking through and you're like, oh, shoot, I actually need more classrooms. I need more bathrooms. This isn't going to work. And making a change during construction is what's most costly. So that often involves, really high change order costs when that work could have been picked up during design, added in and part of the original costs. It involves stopping work, so it'll affect the schedule, re-engineering, redesigning, reorder material, as well as paying for additional labor cost. So to avoid this, it's really essential to have the clear understanding of the design before construction begins. And that's where the 3D walkthrough comes in, and also like virtual reality and being able to like really see and understand the space of how it's going to turn out before you start construction. So yeah, that's one aspect. The other aspect that we've encountered is schools ignoring the need or foregoing professional expertise. So in most cases, school leaders are educators first, not necessarily architects, contractors, or financial experts, though it's totally possible that some school administrators or leaders can have that background, but it's typically them. We want them to be able to focus and do what they do best, which is the education aspect. So really trying to manage complex projects without the right professional help can really be a recipe for disaster. This often involves skipping some of the essential roles like a dedicated project manager or owner's rep that really manage the budget, manage the schedule, and really oversee and have the experience specifically in education, delivering education facilities so that they have the best, you have the best representation for the project so that it has the best opportunity and the best outcome for success. So those not having those professional experts can really lead to things like higher costs, higher change orders, legal fees. You may be pursuing the wrong path or not having the right guidance on challenges and making the right decision. Doing things like signing unfavorable contracts. You always want to have someone that's in your corner, making sure that you have the best advice and the best outcome for the project. So I'd say it's really important to hire the right professionals and the right people and to build the right team so that you have the best chance of success for your project. A few other things I'll touch on is when the planning stage is going on and you're really trying to think about a budget. The biggest challenge that we see is a lack of contingency. And a contingency is just money set aside for the project So let's just say, for example, you have $1 million project. You typically want to set between 10 to 15% of that for contingency, and that's design contingency, construction contingency, owner contingency, and that's just for unexpected things that come up during the project. There's unexpected costs during design, and tons of unexpected costs that pop up during construction in the form of change order. So it's really important to have that amount of money set aside so that you can address unexpected things. And then as the project moves along and you get to a really good point in design, you can typically lower it from 15 to 10, 10 to 5. And then once you start construction, you can even go down to as low as 5% once you have a really solid set of drawings and a firm price. So there's different tactics and things and the amount that you want to have at different stages of the projects. The other parts that I'd want to mention would be failing to plan for technology and infrastructure. So schools often just focus on the visible parts of the building, classroom hallways and things like that. But it's also important and not to neglect the infrastructure for modern learning. So this could be network cabling, power, robust Wi-Fi, and the important infrastructure like that. So I think it's really important to kind of plan for the future, kind of future-proof your space. So for example, we have a school that wants to do traditional keys and not an access control system. So to future-proof that, and if they're really set on the key system, we would put in the piping and conduit so that at some point they could easily add in all of the low voltage wires for an access control system. So just thinking and trying to future-proof and planning for the future and long-term can definitely save money in the long run. The last thing I'd touch on is failing to create the space in such a way that it can be transformed down the road. And this does go hand in hand with the prior point that I brought up around IT infrastructure. It also goes hand in hand with the spacing in the classroom, because over time, the spacing will change, the needs will change. So being able to quickly adapt and modify spaces and not making it too rigid or single purpose. So this could be things such as, instead of fixed or permanent walls, you have dividers that can easily be added in. So I think things like that, as well as adding furniture that can be rearranged, and just kind of thinking, and this goes back to the future proofing and just really trying to think about the use, not just now, but what things could transform in 10, 15, 20 years, and being able to easily adapt to that and be able to save money instead of doing extensive renovation down the road. And so yeah, those are the key things I'd look out for when you're planning a project and things that could be an unforeseen issue down the road.
Yeah, those are great tips. And I think in a way they all stem back to the second thing you listed, which is make sure you have a team of professionals who can think through all of those things, because as you pointed out, school leaders may not be used to kind of being in that space. And I mean, it's much like building a house. If someone asked me to build a house, there are things that I wouldn't think through. And that's how you get houses with weird doors that open and bang into a cabinet and all that kind of stuff. So it seems like, whether it's the tech, whether it's, making sure you have those versatile spaces, if you have a team of people working with you in your design, they'll protect you from making some of those choices that you'll regret down the road. So that makes total sense. Just want to take a quick pause here and welcome those of you just joining us. We're here discussing strategic facility planning that helps schools make smart decisions without breaking their budgets. And you can catch all of our conversations with experts covering all the biggest challenges facing school leaders right here, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So let's get back to our chat with Michael. I have one additional question for you. I know facilities decisions often feel overwhelming. They obviously involve significant financial commitments with, as you just pointed out, long-term consequences. And with the right strategic approach, schools can make choices that both serve their immediate needs. So with the example of the people who want regular keys right now, that's their immediate need, but also are future-proofed or provide for that future growth. So I love that example. So my last question is, for schools that are operating in tight budget constraints, what's the most cost-effective first step when they start to feel like their facility is holding back their ability to grow?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm sure a lot of schools encounter. So I think the most important first step to consider taking is to conduct a comprehensive facilities audit and condition assessment. And what that means is you're just going to have a outside, consultant, professional, engineer, architect, somebody come in and do an assessment on your current facility and what your potential future needs are. So I think this is a really important first step to provide some critical data. It allows you to be more informed on where you stand. It also helps groups come in and try to plan with you and see what additional facilities or what additional steps you can take. So what it does, it really defines the current state of your facility. It'll help you understand urgent repairs, uncover things like energy inefficiencies if you're that could help save on the electricity or heating and gas bills. And it also helps to just kind of put everything out and have a long-term comprehensive plan. Oftentimes schools will just kind of look at one aspect of like, hey, let's just change this classroom, let's just change this aspect, but they have a really overall comprehensive and overarching plan for the future, whether it's a 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan of what you want to accomplish. So by going through and getting a full assessment and audit, it can really help you kind of avoid piecemealing things and to have a full comprehensive plan for the future. So I think that is a really important step to take to get some outside perspective. They will take your input and your needs and what you're thinking and be able to say, this is where you stand. This is what some upgrades or expansions could entail. And then it also will entail what repairs there may need and what kind of maintenance you should plan for, as well as additional costs and projections for expanding, renovating, or doing a completely new campus. So those are really important things to have. I understand that those assessments can definitely be on the more expensive side, depending on if you have the budget set aside. So there could also be the option of looking for some outside assistance that can provide some pro bono or community resources. So if there's a relationship you have with an architect or engineer or owner's rep that can provide some pro bono consulting, that's always a great way to go about it. If anybody on your board or parents, somebody within the community that is a professional in construction or real estate, it could always be good to kind of bring in some additional resources, additional help to just kind of plan and just try to get a bunch of thoughts and opinions and experiences out there. So trying to pursue something that's little to no cost by utilizing your existing network. And then also it could be just hiring an owner's rep or project manager that can kind of get a start on the planning, be able to offer some experiences. And typically with that, you want somebody that is focused on education or has extensive education experience. And then they can also help walk through some of the space planning exercises and things that that you want to keep in mind as you go through this kind of full review and understanding process. And at the end of that, you will have a comprehensive plan that you can start to execute. And that could be modifying, renovating some of the spaces, or starting to plan for a larger expansion. So yeah, those are the key things that I'd like to know.
Yeah, really great tips. And overall, I just want to thank you for all of your insights today, Michael. This was a really great discussion. As I mentioned, we're here Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for 10 minutes discussing biggest challenges facing school leaders, including facilities. For those of you watching, you can learn more about strategic facility planning and growth support on our website. We have live events. We have past live events that you can watch on demand. We have articles, many of which were written by Michael, sharing all of his expertise. So if you just head over to growschools.com, check out the resource library. Thanks again, Michael, for being here, and everyone who joined us today.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
All right, we'll see you next time.